when they quit. The correct path is build vocabulary and use it first. Then let grammar come in as a tool that organizes and sharpens what you already have. And that leads me to quote number 2 to prove this thing that I'm saying, and that further explains what Al-Imam Ibn Sida, Al-Imam in the Arabic language, said. And this quote is from the book of Ibn Khaldun, who is known as a historian and a sociologist in the Muslim world. And even those who are not Muslim that are in this field, they have used this book, Al-Muqaddimah, or Tarikh Khaldun, or Tarikh Ibn Khaldun, sorry, as a reference for history and different periods of history and so on. And the whole book, it talks about how dynasties grow and what is the common thing that happens with dynasties. They grow with asabiya, they grow with, staying together and nationalism and feeling like you from that country. Then once they are up and they have luxuries, they fall because of it, just like it happened to Al-Andalus, just like it happened to most of the dynasties. And this is why he is a great historian and a great sociologist, because he's able to understand from a social aspect what happens for a dynasty, for an empire to grow and then collapse. And obviously he was a scholar in the Arabic language as well, and very strong in the Arabic language. In his book he says, اعلم أن اللغة في المتعارف هي عبارة المتكلم عن مقصوده، وتلك العبارة فعل لساني ناشئ عن القصد لإفادة الكلام، فلا بد أن تصير ملكة متقررة في العضو الفاعل لها وهو اللسان، وهو في كل أمة بحسب اصطلاحاتهم، وكانت الملكة الحاصلة للعرب من ذلك أحسن الملكات وأوضحها إبانة عن المقاصد، لدلالة غير الكلمات فيها على كثير من المعاني، مثل الحركات التي تعين الفاعل من المفعول من المجرور. So this is actually so interesting, which I would love to just make a video on this. But what we are trying to focus on right now is what Al-Imam Ibn Khaldun here, the great historian, mentioned about the Arabic language. He says that language is the expression of the speaker about what he intends, right? So you feel sad, you intend to say that you are sad. So you say, Ana hazin. You feel hungry, your intent is to express that you are hungry. Ana jaw'an. Your intent is to greet this person. So you say, Assalamu alaikum, marhaba. Your intent is to say, what is your name? So you go ahead and with words, you express that intent that you have. And that expression is a linguistic action arising from the intent to convey speech. Therefore, it must become a firmly rooted faculty in the organ that performs it, namely the tongue. And it differs in every nation according to their conventions. He also said, as for the science of language, it is the knowledge of individual words and how they are structured and applied. So here we have a few fawaid and a few myth-breaking rules that we can extract from this qawl of Ibn Khaldun. So first he says that the Arabic language, or the language in general, speaking a language, is to be able to convey what you intend to say. You convey what you intend to say. So this means that for somebody who's a perfectionist like me, for example, one problem that I had when I was learning the Arabic language is that in the beginning, you want to say everything correctly. So that makes you it inclines you towards wanting to know all grammar rules. And as well, you have izzah, you have honor, you don't want to be laughed at and so on. So you want to say everything correctly. So what happens is that for long months, sometimes even years, you are so stuck in the rules. But the purpose of the language is to convey a meaning. Whether it's correct or wrong, if the person understands what you're trying to say, even if you use sign language, to support your speech and he understands it, you are speaking the language. You might not be 100% fluent, but you are speaking the language. And this is why Andalus Institute, I say that after 14 lessons, students are speaking the Arabic language because they are fully relying on Arabic.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أولا يا ربيب،
وعليكم
كيف
السلام
حالك؟
وبركاته. الحمد لله أنا بخير، وأنت أستاذ؟
الحمد لله أنا بخير. ما اسمك يا أخي؟
اسمي ربيب.
ومن أين أنت؟
أنا من أستراليا.
ما شاء الله. أي مدينة في أستراليا؟
مدينة سيدني.
سيدني، ما شاء الله. وكم عمرك الآن؟
أبلغ من عمري 24 عام.
ما شاء الله. وهل عشت حياتك كلها في سيدني؟
نعم، أنا مولود في سيدني.
ما شاء الله. ووالداك من أي بلد؟
هما من بنغلاديش.
ما شاء الله. وهل لك إخوة وأخوات؟
نعم، أخ وأخت فقط.
طيب، ما هذا يا ربيب؟
هذا قلم رصاص.
جميل. وما هذا؟
3 أقلام.
جميل. وهل أي اسم إشارة من أسماء الإشارة، إما ذلك، تلك، هذه كل أسماء الإشارة هذه كيف تقول؟
هذه نعم.
تمام، جميل. هذه إيش؟
هذه
ماذا؟
3 أقلام.
جميل، هذه 3 أقلام. تمام. وهل تظن أن هذا القلم الرصاص جديد أم قديم؟
أظن جديد أستاذ.
لماذا؟
كلهم طويلة.
نعم، كلها طويلة.
كلها طويلة، نعم.
Their speech is not 100% correct, obviously. We still haven't gone through a bunch of chapters of grammar and morphology, but they are able to convey what they want to say in Arabic. And then they are able to, if they don't understand something is being taught to them, they are able to ask in Arabic, what does this mean? This is the first thing that we extract from this, from the qawl of Ibn Khaldun. The second thing is, he says that the expression is a linguistic action, right? That comes from al-lisan, linguistic action. In Arabic, he says, nashi', that it comes out of al-lisan. And therefore, it must be a firmly rooted faculty in the organ that performs it. And this is a myth breaking for all of those, most of the time, students of knowledge, lil asaf, sadly, that because of either insecurity that they are not able to speak correctly themselves, or because they just not inclined towards wanting to put effort into increasing their capability in speaking, they tend to spread this myth of, oh, you don't need to speak the language. You just need to understand, because we are trying to learn the Arabic language to understand the Quran and to understand the Sunnah. Therefore, I don't need to be able to speak it. I just need to be able to understand when I'm reading. And this is from amongst the biggest nonsensical things that you can say. Because even Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran about the Arabic language, lisanun Arabi. So the reason why we call lisan as in tongue, that's the default meaning of lisan Arabi. And even language, if you go back to the root in the Latin and where it comes from lingua, which means tongue. And so, as Ibn Khaldun, he says, language is something that is a trait in your tongue. It's something that comes out of your tongue. So it needs to be a firmly rooted trait in your tongue. You need to be able to speak it before anything. Likewise, the Arabic language, before the scholars that put an nahu like Abu al-Aswat al-Duali and Khalil ibn Ahmad and the scholars that are referencing the Arabic language, before the Sahaba wanted to preserve the Quran, the Arabic language was a language, a لغة منطوقة. It was a pronounced language. It was used to speak it only. There wasn't no rules. It was barely being written, and only a few qaba'il, a few tribes of the Arabs, they used to write the Arabic language. And so when it comes to this myth of you don't have to speak the language, this qawl from many others that I just picked this one as an example. This qawl is what breaks that myth of, oh, you don't need to speak the language because you just want to understand the Quran and the Sunnah. Likewise, then Imam Ibn Khaldun, he says, وَأَمَّا عِلْمُ اللُّغَةِ فَهُوَ مَعْرِفَةُ أَفْرَادِ الْكَلِمِ وَكَيْفِيَةِ أَوْضَاعِهَا. As for the science of language, it is the knowledge of individual words and how they are structured and applied. So, علم اللغة, even if we look at the ayah where Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. After he has mentioned that he has created Adam, then he taught Adam how to speak. So Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. And Allah Azza wa Jal taught Adam all of the words. If you go to Tafsir ibn Kathir, Ibn Abbas, he was asked, did Allah Azza wa Jal taught Adam the words like وَالسَّحْفَةِ, which are, names to describe a pot, something you put food in it, like a plate. And then Ibn Abbas, he said, yes, حتى الفسوة والفسية, which is passing wind, to emphasize on how much and how detailed did Allah Azza wa Jal gave Adam from the vocabulary that for someone, and this brings me to the myth of many students of knowledge, what they say is, why do I want to learn this book? Like, they might talk about Arabi Benedict, they might talk about other books. They say, why am I learning this book? Why am I learning to say tomatoes? Why am I learning to say clouds? Why am I learning to say trees? Why am I learning when I want to understand the Quran and the Sunnah? And this is one of the biggest problems of, I know it all type of students, because, I know a few fatawiyat and I have memorized a few ahadith and I've memorized a couple of juz from the Quran, so I know what I need. So imagine somebody who wants to lose weight, he goes to a coach and he says, why do I have to track my food? Why do I have to weight my food? All I want to do is eat healthy. So I'm just going to eat salad. So is you going to the expert and telling him, no, I know what I need, even though you don't even have experience in it. So here, Ibn Khaldun, he says that al-lugha is knowing afrad al-kalima, knowing vocabulary, afrad al-kalim, wa kayfiyat awda'iha, and how to put them together to make sense of it.